Well, you know, the one I think I laugh at the most is, I don't know how many times they've told me, them and their peeps, if you will, cohorts, find one rich investor. So they say, Ron, if you care so much about the city, you just need to come and buy all these buildings and fix them all up and everything will be great. And it's such a silly plan. First, I'm just an investor like everybody else. Nobody's going to buy all these old buildings, push them down, fix them up, try to bring tenants. By the way, see, you haven't solved the problem. The problem is you can't get tenants quickly enough to repopulate all these old buildings. Of course, COVID has decimated a lot of the tenants, and there's just no future in hoping that you can get, you need one plumber to come and want to put his plumbing supply. You need one ballet school to want to do tenant improvements inside one of those bad strip centers and open a ballet school, so on and so on. You know, we're fortunate in Fort Worth that we had the Bass family who spent a fortune in Sundance Square, and they really did make something of it, and we have one of the most vibrant downtowns in America. Another thing that the councils have done, and we've mentioned this several times, is they try to restrict competition. When I was working on the event center, they didn't want any food trucks because it might compete with their restaurants. Now, if you live in Haltom City, you're laughing right now because I think you can count all the restaurants in Haltom City on two hands. We don't have very many restaurants here. We'd sure love to have a nice restaurant row, and we'd like to see one of those corridors invested, built with a bunch of new restaurants on it, but it's not fixing to come anytime soon. But by the way, sometimes food trucks, we had a food truck in Haltom City called Coco's Shrimp. It is so good, they went into Haltom City and opened a new restaurant. But we shouldn't be telling any kinds of businesses that you can't come. The council has been open. If we get too many of one kind of business, that will make them fail, and we will have more boarded up businesses. I know you're probably chuckling as you listen to this, but they have really said that in public settings. The last item on my list is the people that don't like the concept plan say, well, it's only for walking areas. Of course, we already touched on the fact that Mansfield was implementing it for its freeways. But I'm sure there's something on the plan that a person won't like. More than one thing. Does it mean we should show the whole plan out? By the way, not one other person, not one other group has submitted an alternative plan. Not one person's offered to edit the plan. It's been out there a year. The closest they've come is by creating a 30-year TERS so that we can get some tax money to make public improvements. It's time that we create a plan to solve and revitalize the southern and central parts of Haltom City. And I think it's worth mentioning that every single current council person in Haltom City doesn't live in those areas. They all live in the northern part of town. I come and go from work down here every day in the southern part of the city. I drive these streets, I see these boarded buildings. I go outside the city to eat because we don't have hardly any restaurants. I do patronize the ones we have occasionally. One of the best ones we had, Hofbrau, is moving from the old part of the city to the new part of the city they've made fancier, which is great. Hofbrau, as an investor, made the right decision. They're going to go where the business is. But it sure didn't help our corridor any, our declining corridor. Who will occupy their space? What restaurant will come where they were? So we really need to get some pro-business people, and we need to get a plan.